All right, it's now 13 minutes after 8, and it's time for Black and White, a segment where we talk about social issues. And one of the things that was glaring is what was discovered during the examinations. A number of teenage pregnancies that were reported, and also children that basically were giving birth to children, as it were, because these are children who are in school and are not expected to be mothers, but there we are. We had counties like Narok County that had startling figures of about 40% of the female students basically ready to give birth at some point or the other just after the examination. So that's what we'd like to discuss and basically look at what might be the cause, why, and how did we get there. Remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation. I'm going to introduce the guests that we have first, then we'll listen into some of the comments that have been made. But to my extreme left, I have Jackie Sanaipe, who is a student, also a case study for us today. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I also have Stephen Olepan, who is the chair of Narok County Youth Council. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Mary Munyao, who is a child development specialist. Yes, thank you for joining us. But before we get into the conversation, let's just listen into what we had Cicely Kariuki also saying at one time or the other regarding the crisis, if we can call it a crisis.
Kweli tumeendelea kuona wasichana ambao wanafanya mitihani mwaka huu kutoka class 8 na pia sasa form 4 kidato cha 4. Wengi wao wako na mimba, wengine wamepata watoto wanapoendelea kufanya mitihani. Niseme ni jukumu letu sisi wote tukiwa wazazi kuongea na wasichana wetu ndio wajue kuna muda wa kila kitu. Kuna muda wa kwenda kwa njia ya uzazi kama ushasoma. Wakati wa kusoma ni wakati wa kusoma. Kwa hivyo ingine inaambatana na mambo ya nidhamu. Lakini niseme pia kama mzazi atafanya yake, mwalimu pia afanye yake. Na pia mwanafunzi afanye yake, ajue ya kwamba kupata watoto itafanyikana. Lakini sasa hivi ni muda ya kuangalia na kujipanga kimaisha. Kwa vile ukikosa nafasi ya kuwa mtulivu na kusoma, sasa kubebana na mimba saa ingine, pia una mitihani na uko katika hali ya shule, saa ingine huwa ni ngumu kubalance hiyo maneno mawili.
Uko na wasiwasi sana, ile maneno tunasikia inatajwa kwamba wasichana wengi wa shule wanazalia kwa darasa. Unaweza imagine wale walizaa kabla ya mtihani ni ngapi? Ndio sababu Bwana Roger tunataka tuhubirie wanaume, tuwaambie tuachane na wasichana wa shule, tutafute wale vijana wanataka kuoa, watafute wale wasichana wamemaliza shule, wanafanya kazi, wanataka kuoa. Wasichana wa shule tuachane nao. Wale wanaume ambao wananyumbani hapana kuja kabisa, unajifanya kwa uzuri, alafu ukienda shule ukiona mtoto wa shule unakuwa na mageni kama maajabu. We want to have a disciplined community.
All right, and basically that's what some of the leaders had to say about that. So let me start with you, Mary. As a child development specialist, is this something new, or is it that now we have more statistics and as a result we find the numbers very high?
I think this is not something which is new. It's just that it has been enhanced by the media, and also the way things are being done now. There's a lot of child interests, and there's a lot of research being done, and there are a lot of movements which are concentrating on the issues of child protection. So this has enhanced through research, and also the media has also helped bring out the issue.
Okay, yeah. So it's not something necessarily new.
It's not something necessarily new, because if it is new, we could not have such a big number at once from nowhere. So it means it's something that has been growing, and not been looked at or been tamed. Okay. So I think it has just come to a place, it has just exploded.
All right. Yeah. Stephen, you are the chair of Narok County Youth Council, and Narok happens to be one of the counties that had the highest numbers in terms of teenage pregnancies. What do you think is the cause for this, specifically in Narok?
Oh, well, I may say, like my friend here, Mary, have said, it's not something new. The only thing is that the trend actually has gone higher than how it was there before. So when it comes to narrow case. First, we may agree or disagree with the results of those the researchers, because the problem now is those what we are seeing is real, but the source of this information is hectic.
Do you have maybe an explanation as to why Narok specifically seems to have very high numbers in terms of percentage?
2 years ago, that is 2016, the percentage was 40%, and recently it seems that it is increasing. They are saying 46%, of which we are still, the source of those information is the question.
Okay.
Yep.
So no explanation from you in terms of why Narok specifically. Could it be maybe cultural? Could it be an issue of culture? And maybe let me bring in Jackie Sanaipe, who's a student. Do you think maybe this has got a cultural twist to it?
Sure. Okay, for me, I think we have factors that contribute into these teenage pregnancies. And one of it is the cultural beliefs and the lifestyle of the people, the pastoral communities back there at home. Like the female genital mutilation is really increasing, especially during these ceremonies, like the Christmas holidays. And these are the times when these practices are being high, because girls are out there from schools, and they go there to the village. They are seeing big girls. So the parents and the community there will practice their tradition. It's part of their tradition. So immediately you go home, you'll undergo the FGM. Then from there, they will, of course, immediately you undergo the FGM. Before you undergo the FGM, they say you are a kid. To anybody in the community,
you're a child.
You are a child. But immediately you undergo the FGM, they believe you are an adult. And from there, a girl will feel that I can go indulge myself with big men, boys who are circumcised.
So do you think now from the local level, they are cognizant of the law? Because what you're saying is that according to the culture, it's not about age, it's about the process and the ceremony and rite of passage, which is FGM in some communities, whereas the law does declare that you're underage, you're a minor when you're under 18.
So, yeah, it contradicts the law, the Kenya law, because in the Kenya law, you are a kid until the age of 18. You are not of sound mind. But then in the community, it doesn't matter your age. Maybe you can be 12 years age or 14, between 12 and 14, but you are considered an adult immediately you are circumcised. So that is a major factor that is contributing to all this. Because when you get pregnant, when you are not circumcised, you are an abomination to that community and nobody will appreciate you. You are just like a curse in that community. So these girls who are getting pregnant are those girls who have undergone the FGM. Sure.
And according to the community, the way the community sees them is that they're ready and...
Yeah, they are adults and they will be married off.
Okay. But of course, Mary, this is not unique to Narok County or areas where they practice FGM. This is a concern that was a national concern, and especially, minors getting pregnant. What do you think is the cause for this increase? And secondly, there's not much being said about those who impregnate them. We're talking about the girl who's pregnant, but what about those who are making them pregnant?
Mostly the cases here is because one leading factor is the lifestyle. The lifestyle has changed, so parents are not very involved in the lives of their children. So they leave parenting mostly to the house helps. And mostly there are cases where house help have introduced children into sexual matters. For example, even they can be watching pornography with the house help, the children. So from there they learn. And also another factor is the issue of relatives living in the homes. The statistics say that 95% of the children who experience sex at the first time is through their first cousins. So you can imagine the uncles, the grandparents and the cousins, they also facilitate in leading to sexual practices for these children. And also, parents are a key factor because they should be cooperating with the school and also, for example, the church to see what is being reinforced in the church concerning the matters of maybe sexuality, or in schools. If it's there, they should not see these partners as enemies, but they should work together and also bring out and know how they can come to a conclusion to help curb these factors.
All right.
Yeah.
And Stephen, do you think we fully understand the youth? Because we're living in a different dispensation. Information is available. Their thinking is different. Do you think we fully understand the youth and where they're coming from?
Yeah, we understand, but the most challenging and the serious thing is ignorance within the youth. Because one, those factors that I may mention, that technology, we may say that we are in the technology world as youth, but that technology on the other side is leading to mess of the community. Watching those kids watching the pornography videos, and with the young kids, actually, it's not, the technology is not leading us to the right direction. Secondly, we have parental care actually has gone down because they are, according to the age sets of these pastoral communities, there are times that a child is not supposed to sleep in the house where his dad is. So these young ladies, when they close schools, they go to the neighbors, finding a place to spend a night. Then they end up finding a bold child there, or those who are elder than her, and then they end up missing. So another thing on parental care, actually parents they have kept away with the children. That is, most of them throw their kids to daycare schools or baby care for money, chasing money. So they are exchanging money with
for the care of
the children. So they are the messes. So you find these kids from age of, that is 5 to 18 years, they are not getting parental influence.
All right, and maybe let me come to you, Jackie. You got pregnant in Form 3. What's your story? Maybe you can give us insight to what you went through, and possibly that would help us now see maybe from a clearer vision.
Okay, it's not in Form 3, just to make this clear. I was in Form 4. Then there's these poor family backgrounds. So every time and now you are sent back home for school fees, and that is the opportunity that the parents will have to marry you off. But I was rescued by a certain center. The current senator now, Leda Makina, rescued most of our girls in Narok, and I was one of them. He rescued me in high school when I was in Form 4. Then from Form 4, immediately I finished, I didn't go back home. Because that's the opportunity that the parents will get to marry you off, for the exchange of the dowry. So I didn't go back home. I went to that center for 2 years. Then all of a sudden, the sponsorship or the scholarship was over. Then we were forced to go back to our homes, to the villages there. But immediately we go back to the home there, everybody sees you as an asset or a liability. They just want, like, you are just a burden there. Why don't you go? Why don't you move back to where you were? The Dama is there chasing us that we don't marry you. So what are you doing here in home? So from there, we go back to the towns. Chasing for jobs. These just casual jobs. Then I got a job in one of the supermarket. Then when I was there, I got the father of my kids. I have 2 kids, 10 years and 8 years. Then from there I got okay, he died when my second born was 7 months. Then from there, he took me, then paid the dowry. The parents were happy, you see. I was still young.
They accepted you back. But at the point of when you were in Form 4,
yes.
had you already been married off?
Yes, I was married off. Then I went back to school.
Then you went back to school.
Yes.
And were you in agreement? Because I'm trying to understand, for those who've grown up in that environment,
yes.
sometimes you'll find the girls who are married off, that's all they know. So they don't have a problem with it in that they don't know it's wrong.
Yes, most of them don't know anything wrong about it. They appreciate it and they'll just go. But for us, there was that center, and Ledama was all over the villages saying that girls must go back to schools. That's when we went back to schools, and he sponsored us. And after that, we didn't go back home. But up to now, for the question you asked about the youth, for me, I believe in our community, they don't understand the youth. Because like for me now, when you want to go rescue those girls at home there, everybody will curse you. They'll see that you just somebody in town, you don't have a life, so you want to destroy their kids. So they don't
You
really...
almost become an outcast.
Yeah. You'll become an outcast and nobody will appreciate you until you prove them wrong, until you go back to school and take back to the community. From that time, like now, I'm a student at Masemara University. I'm also working there in the gender office. So most of the time, I go back to the village, to those primary schools where we schooled. Then I talk to them. I go back to the village. I bring my sisters to my house. I take them to the college, you see. So from there, they will start appreciating you. But the moment you just come to town, sit down, nobody will know the good things you are doing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary, as much as we're just talking about those girls who are pregnant, those are the ones who became pregnant. But this probably tells us that there's a lot of intercourse that happens with minors, which of course also brings in another angle, and this is the issue of STIs, sexually transmitted infections, and HIV and AIDS. What do we need to do as a society to stop this and to ensure that our children are not at that risk? Because for those who, I'm sure for those who fall pregnant, there are some who still engage in intercourse but do not get pregnant. But that tells us there's a lot of unprotected sex happening.
Yeah, it's very important. It all goes down to training children from the young age. Must be a role of the parent, the teacher, and the religious leaders. They should work as a system. Because if the children are not given the information early enough, they are going to be confused and don't know what direction to take. For example, I know in Christianity, we say train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. So training is very important. And without information, there'll be ignorance, like my brother has said. So the society should take up training from different areas, from the church, from the schools, from the homes. And parents play a very big role in this. They should know their children and understand their development. And they should not shy off seeking to know how their children are doing. Most of the girls, when they get their periods, most of the parents don't know. And most of them don't even tell their parents because they are too busy. They are not there. So the parents should be there for their children. They should create time for their children and tell them the reality of sexual education and tell them the consequences. Because most of these young people are careless because they think the consequences are very light. For example, what you are saying, for example, maybe the boys themselves impregnate these children, but they go free. They are nowhere to be seen. They'll never even be in the scene. Even the pictures we are seeing on television, we were just seeing girls, but they were not seeing the boys who are maybe there were adults, but probably there was a percentage of young boys, but they were not there. But also the boys should also be in this training. They should be taught the consequences. If they know the consequences, they are going to make the right choices. But without giving the children information, it will be very hard to curb this. So, and I think sexual education should be reinforced in our education system, and also at home. Parents should not assume. They should be very vigilant on what the children are doing, where they are going. For example, it's holiday. Most of the children are just at home, and they will be everywhere. The parent will not know. They will have their gadget, and most of them, their abuses also happen through social media. Instagram. There is an Instagram app I was reading that you can register, and what they do, they target young children, and from there, they will ask them to send pictures when they are,
nude.
you know, yeah. So, and then they will use them later. This story, when I was reading, one of the parents came to discover that the photos of their child is being used for pornography on all over the world. Then she was told it cannot be undone. It is already done. So you can imagine what distress. And they say they were not there for their children. So the thing is working with children and being there, not only as parents, as teachers, and also as religious leaders.
All right, as we wind up, Jackie, you go around talking to schools and to girls and to youth, basically. What is it that you tell them? What information is it that you'd like to get out there?
Okay, for me, whenever I go out there, I tell these young people that education is key to success. And if you want to invest in your future, you have to invest in education. You should add your certificates. Don't remain with your birth certificate alone. Work for it. Invest with something which will help you in future, because anything you get, anything good you'll get from education, it will determine the future you'll get and the future of your kids. At the age of secondary and primary school, you are not supposed to have children. You're supposed to struggle and work hard, because the motherly you need, you'll get better when the time comes. Yeah.
All right. And Stephen, your closing comments.
My closing comment, my fellow youth, our tomorrow is today. So if you think that the wasting of those young sisters of ours, infecting them with diseases, you think it is for their benefits or their loss, but as a society, we are losing. So kindly, let us love our sisters and be our sisters' keepers. Don't waste them. They will be our today and tomorrow leaders. So what I would like to urge all Kenyan youth, not only in the pastoral communities and not in Narok, is that regardless of all these factors, let us embrace change. That all the bad picture that is being seen within this youth, let us change. Number two, I want to urge our parents that both fathers and mothers, you are no longer going to marry. You have already married, or you have married, or you have been married. What is left now is us as the youth. We are the one to marry. We don't want our girls to be touched. We want them fully. So those who are practicing FGM, in whichever area you are, kindly tuharibie wasichana wetu.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Mary, your words of advice as we wind up.
Yeah, as we wind up, I really want to emphasize on the issue of taking back our roles as parents and also as teachers and religious leaders. We have to talk to our children. Don't shy off. Tell them about sexual issues and also tell them about the consequences. Especially also the boys should be taught that they are already fathers. They don't just assume they are going to walk free. They are already fathers and they have a responsibility. So we should nurture them and always take care of them. Especially now for the parents, your children are on holidays. Get them to do something, activities. Let them be in sports and engage them. Because if they have free time to do nothing, which is not planned, or systematically are followed, they are going to engage in these things because they are just finding something to do and they end up in the wrong hands. And also the relatives you are going to be with around your children this holiday, please talk to your children about relative, because most of the abuses are happening because of relatives and the uncles and the cousins. So please talk to your children how to have boundaries. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Mary Munyao, who's a child development specialist, also psychologist. Jackie Sanaipe, who's a student case study. And last but not least, Stephen Olepan, who's the chair of Narok County Youth Council. Thank you for joining us this morning. And it's now 20 minutes to 9. We take a short break. We'll be right back with more stories making headlines.